Hello everyone. I posted my rigged PNGtuber showcase a week ago and saw a few wanted a tutorial. This will be covering the basics of PNG-REMIX. I will try my best to explain, and if anything gets confusing, I can help in the comments. First, you want to make sure you have some assets to of course rig. If you are an artist, you can draw your character. If you aren't, you can commission someone or have a friend make you your assets. Make sure to separate your accessories, limbs, hair, etc. anything that needs to move or be adjusted in layers. Make sure to overdraw some items, for example, if you want your arm to move. Don't just cut out where the overlapping arm will appear, make sure to draw under that so when there's bends, it won't look sloppy or like your character is dying. I suggest you start with flat colored assets first, so if you run into any problems while rigging, you can make any changes without spending time shading and rendering it all over again. You can organize the order your assets in your drawing software if you want, but this will change in the program. In this program you will be able to have states where you can switch forms, accessories, or emotions for your character, whatever you plan. You'll be making a simple rig just to show the basics of the program. I will make an alien. I'd like to bring up what appendages are. They are assets with applied physics to them. For example, long tufts of hair, bunny ears, or tails in general can be used as appendages. Appendages can have a natural flowing animation. Appendages have to be formatted sideways. The start of the tail, for example, is on the left. Make sure to crop out any empty space, or there can be issues like deformation. If your tail is a curve, so maybe for example, your character is a Shiba Inu or something, there's an option to curve appendages in the program. Keep in mind the left of the image is the start, make sure to not leave any space. I made that mistake. That will be where the appendage curve point is. Now I already have a PNGtuber, so I will start a new PNGtuber model. Here the options: we have the basic, new PNGtuber, or open or already made one. You can open PNGtuber plus rigs in PNG-REMIX. The add images option is also available near your already imported assets area and under the image previews. Here is the appendage-based image feature. We will do this later. For some reason the option isn't near the already important images workspace. Export model parts can access your asset image files. Demo model includes models that come with the program, so you can experiment and inspect the mechanics used in the models. Lip sync configuration I don't have much knowledge on, it's a bit advanced. Like I said, we will start with the basics for today. A lot of these are self-explanatory. You have your editor workspace or your display PNGtuber option for clipping with OBS. You can also optionally change the background in the display. The bounce feature is your bounce intensity and gravity. Bounce occurs during speaking or blinking. These can both be enabled and disabled on the right window. These are the settings. Change states with inputs allows with key binding to states like switching emotions or outfits, etc. Anti-aliasing allows for your images to be smoother. Auto load model loads your last loaded model when you rep open the software. Keep this on. Save on exit saves your progress and changes. When you close the program, you can edit your autosave settings also to keep your progress safe. Use delta time allows for higher adjust values and the model moving less. Max FPS is self-explanatory. Follow mouse screen is important. I know that folks with multiple screen displays can have errors with mouse tracking. Change which monitor is in focus, for example, the one you're playing games on. There are also UI themes available. They are very unique. I use Funky because there is more color variety and helps me tell things apart more. The audio settings are where you set up your MIC sensitivity and input device. I use a text-to-speech, so I use a virtual microphone. Your virtual output will be your input if you also use text-to-speech. The states remap setting allow you to add keybinds to your states to change them. We will do this later. Import settings for now just has the trim import function, which basically crops your images when you import them. Personally, I leave this off. Over here you can preview and browse your imported assets. Press the plus and you can open your File Explorer to import the images of your rig layers. Now I know it looks bad, but when we fix this it will look better. We have to organize the layers. I made the mistake of reordering without folders here. Please use folders for less messiness. For example, your hats, head, ears, eyes will go in a head folder. Your tail, arms and scarf will go in a torso folder. That's how I basically do it. I put the head folder in the torso folder so it's all attached. When rigging eyes, your line art for your eye shape will be the one in front. Always, then your pupils, then the eye whites or sclera. Sclera is at the very bottom. Keep in mind the assets at the top of your asset list will be the last visible items. It's confusing, I know. Here I am duplicating symmetrical assets. The Z order determines the layer visibility. Is it behind everything or in front of everything? I would put capes or back hairs, tufts in the back, especially a tail. Negative number means it's going backwards. Positive is moving to the front. Now we will go into detail about organizing layers. I suggest you make use of the folder option. And be aware that the Z order mechanic will come in handy. You can drag an asset to make it a child object of the asset it is dragged into. This will be useful later for clipping layer mechanics for the eyes. I like to make a folder for things that will contain a lot, just so I don't get overwhelmed. This also helps give a pivot point or effect for everything inside. I try my best to have things the order I want them to be, but the child layers can't go below the parent layer unless you edit the Z order. Keep this in mind, this is so important. What I do is either put my sclera eye whites as a child of the eye line art layer, then my pupils as the child of the sclera layer. This is mainly for if you want mouse tracking with your eyes, so your PNGtuber will look at your mouse movement. Organizing stuff. Now I will go over something in the Properties tab. You can change the color of an object or the tint. So if I want to make this little guy evil red eyes, I can do that. Tints don't usually work on pure black items. You can also make things transparent here. There are a few options to change the blending mode, similar to how it works in most drawing softwares. Now I will fix the order of the eyes by changing the Z order to a positive value, so it is in front the head and cheek fluff. I will be editing only the parent layer. Make sure to put the eye lineate layer higher than usual. You'll have to make sure to put your sclera eye whites and pupils at a lower Z order value than the line art. Here I'm just adjusting the Z orders of other assets so they can remain a child layer while also being in the position I want it to be. Position X and Y just show the placement of your assets. You can use these for more precise movement and editing, as well as rotation. Offset I don't usually touch, and the size is self-explanatory. There's also a toggle for making your layer visible. Now with your blinking eyes asset, I went over to the should blink option and set it to eyes closed. This makes it only visible when the PNGtuber's eyes are closed during blinking triggers. Your parent layer of your open eyes, which for me is the line art, I set as the eyes open option in the should blink section. Now our critter is blinking, he has been birthed. Currently I don't have a mouth for him, but for the talking toggles, it works the same way. Should talk should have a mouth closed asset and a mouth open asset. We have other options down here. Ignore bounce makes it so the asset will not bounce if you have bouncing enabled for talking or switching states. Physics just allows for smoother movements if you have those custom movements enabled. We will get to the movement tab soon. Clip children is the toggle I use for pupils to stay on the eye whites. Enable the clip children option on the eye whites, not line art. Flip H and V lets you mirror assets. For example, if I duplicate a symmetrical asset I only drew once, I can just mirror it. Toggle assets are assets you can toggle visibility with a bind key. You can maybe set it as a hat or accessory and make it appear and disappear pressing B. And only show on toggle is just an additional to that, but it only is enabled if holding the bind key. I forgot to mention there's A should disappear on other assets toggle. This makes it so if you enable toggle A will disappear if you enable toggle B. Now let's move on to the movement tab. I want to add some bounciness to my head when my PNGtuber switches states and talks. The X and Y amp change how much the sprite automatically moves in these directions, and the frequency edits the speed of that movement. Why he funky? This is a good option, for example if you have a floating fish in a bowl. The drag delays the movement of the layer. Then the stretch applies a elastic effect depending on the movement, like bounce or mouse track. The rotation degree is how much an asset rotates. If you leave this at 0, it will just rotate based on movement alone. Seizure. Auto rotation is just a constant rotation. I don't like that. Rotation speed adjust speed of course dumb hashtag and minimum and maximum rotation adjusts the amount of rotation the layer will do. Now we get to the good stuff, the follow mouse options. I would marry these options. The X and Y range determine how much and how far the asset moves to follow the mouse. The rotation amount is how much the asset rotates to the mouse. Squish amount is the amount of squish to the direction of the mouse. Now I'm just editing the rigging here to have more effect with the mouse. Tracking, there's no exact guide for the perfect effect, it takes a lot of experimentation. I applied mouse tracking to the pupils of the eyes. See how the pupils are leaving the sclera. This is again why we enable clipping children on the sclera by whites with the pupil as the attached children. You should often use the pause movement at the top of your screen. While moving your sprites around with movement effects, it can bug your layers. Remember that Control-click changes the pivot point of your layer. I am experimenting with my pupil placements to avoid the tracking, making the pupils go way too far off the sclera. Here I enabled clip children. Here I am applying rotation effects to the antennae, 4 antennae and ears. I usually have one value degree positive and the other negative, so they both don't spin the same direction. My personal taste, I like to add rotation in the follow mouse section, so my antennae or ears move depending on my mouse position. Now we will move to the Wiggle Options menu. The Wiggle sprite is just to give it the option to enable wiggling. Wiggle app is for appendage-based images. Wiggle physics lets the object wiggle if there's movement, like from mouse tracking or talking. Wiggle amp is how affected the object is by the effect, and frequency is the speed. The X and Y offset changes the origin point, but I don't mess with that, so I don't know about that much. Now moving on to the MISC menu, you can change the properties of physics. You can change the animation that plays when you talk or are idle. This affects the entire model. Squish on blink squishes the model while blinking. You can also change the speed of the blink, make it slower or faster. You can also change the blink chance, how often the blinking occurs. The light visible option allows you to have a light. This can be customized to give your model shape by using normal maps in Too Stupid for that though. But these can be good as a light source or having an overlay of color, if you are too lazy to make recolor the asset. Darken when not speaking is self-explanatory. Your model is darkened unless you speak. The experimental tab has obviously experimental stuff like a rainbow toggle. I won't enable it because it can cause seizures. But the main thing people use is the advanced lip sync, which I am not too well informed about to use. I also lack mouth. Reset animation on state change is for sprite sheets. Now let's move on to appendages. I will now give our critter his tail rights. Notice how the left of the image to the starting point of the swaying effect. You can use the Properties tab to change the position and rotation of the appendage. The Wiggle tab has an auto wag feature for appendages. You can change the wag speed. The curves affect how much the tail curves during the wag. The segments is how much the appendage will move. Less segments is more still, while higher segments is more flexible. Stiffness is how much your appendage stays when there's movement. The max angle is how far the tail will wag to. Physical stiffness is how much the appendage is changed by the movement. Comeback speed is how fast the appendage goes back to its normal position. Damp is how much the appendage keeps its form. Subdivision can be increased for smoother appendages. Gravity adds more force to appendage movement or form. And closed loops attach the start and end of appendages. Now when you have your model done, if you want to have different states, emotions, or anything to switch between, you can add states. You can keybind these in the settings. You can add items to a new state, but make sure to toggle off their visibility if you don't want those sprites to be seen in other states. Now that's pretty much all the basics to knowing PNGTUBE-REMIX. There are also demo models that come with the application, in case you learn better with experimentation. There are different demo models for different mechanics. A basic overall demo, a mouse tracking demo, normal maps and states. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you have other questions, Ask me in the comments or join the PNG Remix Discord in the description.